Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This, of course, is another anime reaction video. Today, we are starting a brand new series, replacing 91 Days. We got Bananafish. Now, I mentioned it in the replacement polls video, that I put this on the list because it was something I was interested in, and it seemed like it was kind of similar to 91 Days in that it's about crime, but that's basically based on nothing, because I don't know, like, a thing about Bananafish, except that it's based on, like, a really old manga, I believe. Let me check real quick. Yeah, holy shit, 1985. Yeah, really old manga, and it only got an anime in 2018. And I kind of like guessed that it was a crime type anime based on the cover art or the promotional art that's on my anime list. It features two guys and the blonde one has a gun. So I just figured it would be similar enough, and it's animated by Mappa, so it'll probably look good visually, but either way, I'm super excited to give this a try. Yeah, I really have no idea what I'm in store for here in this series. Except I did I did see in one of the additional comment sections of the actual poll, somebody mentioned that it has the only yaoi couple that they'll ever accept, which is an interesting comment to make, but who knows what that actually means, because again, I haven't started it. I wonder if that's going to be like the main pairing of this series. I wonder how much of that's going to be like the main focus. You know what? I'm asking too many questions, and I haven't even started the fucking show yet. Without further ado, I'm going to get started with episode 1. So, as always, unless you're new here, there will be links in the description below, which will take you to the full-length, uncut reaction. So go ahead and follow one of those links, watch the reaction, then come back to YouTube for the discussion. So, without further ado, let's get started with episode 1 of Bananafish. I should mention that is a very interesting title. It doesn't really give away anything about this series. As far as I know, it won't. Maybe this will be like a really trippy, like drug trip feeling show where the main like villains are like called Bananafish and it's like the supernatural thing. Maybe it'll be explained later. Okay. As goofy as that title is Bananafish, I always thought it was goofy sounding, even when I didn't know what the anime was even a little bit about, but I just, like, knew what the title was. Even now it's still goofy, but it's got... I think that's because I know it's because it's going to potentially be, like, a super serious thing for this series, which is insane. Wow, I have so many fucking questions. You would not believe. It is simultaneously a really great yet kind of terrible first episode, like start to a series. I don't know if they made this. If the manga's like this, I guess I can kind of give Mappa a pass. But if they did this on purpose, so like people who've read the manga don't like feel like it's too slow or something, because that's what they do with reboots. Like, if you'd already seen the 2003 Full Metal Alchemist, or you'd already read the manga, they sped through the beginning of Full Metal Alchemist for Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, so they can get to the stuff that hasn't been adapted yet into an anime quicker, Or Hunter x Hunter, they actually went pretty fast through the beginning, because again, 1999 anime and also the manga. And maybe it's because... I don't know if that's true or not, because there hasn't been an anime for this beforehand, as far as I know, but it just felt like so much was happening, and I guess it almost feels like they're trying to, like, put all their eggs into one basket, without giving time. It's like... How do I describe it? It's really weird. It's like... I'm really bad at describing this, but you know how... Like, let's say you have, like, a container that's elastic and it can expand like as you put more things in it. It's like they're trying to fit as much as they can, as much eggs in as they can as possible, as soon as possible, without giving it time to like expand and get used to getting like bigger. So, and maybe if it's done right, it will be absolutely perfect, but they run the risk of all of the eggs cracking, instead of like being a bit slower and methodical and giving it time to expand naturally. If that makes any sense, that's kind of what it feels like. Obviously, I think this is a pretty well-regarded show, but they just introduced so much, and the major problem is that either they're not going to capitalize on the things they're setting up or give satisfying like ends to those things, or I'm going to end up forgetting, which is probably the more likely to happen, because they start us off in a military setting, and I will give them one thing, even though I do feel I'm getting lost through this first episode. Just like there's because they're introducing so much, not just like character names and ideas, the setting, and like they're implying past events that they haven't fully explained yet, that they might not fully explain. It's just things that you sort of interpret as you go along based on what they're saying, and if that's the way it is, that's fine. But it's just so much, and I will say though, based on this episode, it seems like they'll be doing a good job handling that. Because I can't imagine more of these more episodes after this will continue this trend of just like cutting between so many different scenes in like quick succession. Just like, we're here. There's this character. Here's these ideas. There's this thing called Bananafish. Oh, look at this joke. That's weird. Anyway, we're going off to another scene now. But then at the end of the episode is when it started to like slow down a second. Just like giving everything a time to breathe. Like, all right, now that we've gotten that out of the way, this is where it really begins, so to speak. Like, because they're setting up the intrigue. There's like conflicts between Ash and the main boss of the mafia, because Ash is like the leader of like a subgroup, I assume it's called. It would be considered. There's the stuff with the military at the beginning. There's all these like different people which we're slowly getting to understand where they stand in this sort of like weird, I assume, like a web of like intrigue of like these different groups and these different alliances. And then we start to see them collide here at the end. And I think it's both the best and like the worst first episode to anything ever, because it's really good at setting up intrigue by introducing all of these things. But the thing is, there's kind of too much, and it feels like I'm being overwhelmed. But at the end, it got me seriously invested. When they slowed down for a second and then got into that fight at the bar with, establishing where things are going to be going in the near future, that being, AG and Skip being kidnapped by people that work for Dino, which, by the way, at first it was believed to be that they were coming after Ash because of Ash's, thing, the little powder, something to do with Bananafish. I assume that's the name of the drug that he pulled out of that bullet casing. But we still don't know yet. But instead they took AG the random foreigner, and Skip the kid, who probably has nothing to do with this type thing. And then they build up more of a mystery as to who Ash is as a person. Which, by the way, I don't know when this takes place. Because I'm thinking it must have been like mid to late 2000s, back when it was like socially acceptable to use gay as an insult, like, dude, that's fucking gay, like as an insult, or whatever. And but at the same time, the phone that Ash has in the bar when he's getting the call from Shorter about people coming to get them at the bar, that's an iPhone. That's got to be an iPhone like 10, right? iPhone 10, iPhone. I guess it's called an iPhone X. iPhone X. Yeah, it's an iPhone X, like Max, the one with like the slim camera on it. That's what it looks like. So I don't know if that's just like a thing they messed up in the animation process, or they did that on purpose, because they very clearly are integrating like more modern technology with the smartphones. Like when eBay, I believe, the guy who was there with AG, and it's clearly iPhones they've got. They were using the Find My iPhone. I'm not going to look it up because I don't want to be spoiled, but if anyone wants to, like, feel free, if anyone wants to, please do feel free to elaborate in the comments without spoiling anything what the deal with that is, because in the short term it doesn't seem like it'll be like a huge deal, but it could be like an immersion breaking thing in the future, just like, oh, we're supposed to be in this time period, but like the technology is like way advanced and just feels confused. Like, oh, like, what's a good example of that? At least, because we didn't get like an in-depth look at the police station, but it seemed a whole lot less technologically advanced than modern police stations do. But again, we have like smartphones. I don't know what the deal with that is, but either way, I'm super interested in this anime. It's got It's got a lot of things going for it so far, and I swear to God, if I had watched this first episode when it was coming out weekly, I might have considered dropping it, because even though it does have a hook at the end, not only did that confusing and like really jarring beginning put me off, having that cliffhanger, that really good cliffhanger at the end, would have pissed me off, because I'd have been like, God damn it, I gotta wait another goddamn week for this. But thankfully, I have only decided to watch the show after it is finished, which means I don't have to worry about that, and that means I can just watch. I can watch basically whenever, so it doesn't hurt as much when I get to a cliffhanger, because then I could be like, I'll watch, the next episode. But yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about this episode. I'm gonna get into episode 2 now. That was a really beautiful ED. I really like that song. I'm gonna try and see if I can't see what band did that. I think that was right, but I'm gonna check on my anime list anyway. And might as well add that I have watched the first 2 episodes. It is Prayer X by King GNU. GNU. I don't know how to... King GNU. Is that any... I don't think I've heard any of their songs before. It's a very different sounding kind of song. Prince New. I figured that's how you pronounce it, but I didn't know for sure. Yeah, they did Prayer... They're pretty new, actually, now that I think about it. Oh, formed in 2013. Yeah, I doubt I've heard any of their songs. I'm not going to even look into it anymore. But, God, am I glad that they've changed up the method of, like, storytelling in this episode. There's still a lot of questions that they presented in the first episode that haven't been answered yet, but I'm so glad that they've adjusted, like, the pacing of the episode. It feels like a lot happened, but I didn't feel overwhelmed with, like, information. We got a lot more time to, like, breathe and, digest, so to speak, a lot of what was happening on screen, First of all, that opening is fucking amazing. I'm immediately... the song Found and Lost, I believe it was called, and then Prayer X, both going in the playlist, like, immediately. Both beautiful songs, both amazing. I love them. The visuals are also gorgeous. I really like the sort of, like, pencil-y, like, scratchy, like, sketch art style in the ED. It looked really nice. It reminds me of one of the bits from the 9th... I believe, yeah, the 9th Bleach opening. And they do that a couple of times in the opening, too, where it's, like, really sketchy looking. I've always kind of liked that aesthetic in anime openings and stuff. And, like, even, like, the outlines of the characters almost look kind of, like, sketchy and, like they're pencil drawings. Like, I don't know if that was a purposeful design choice or if that's just how it looked. Because it doesn't always look like that in a lot of anime, so I have to imagine that was on purpose. But, yeah, man, talk about an exciting episode. Real quick, I just real quick want to check. Who was the first person to die in that scene where Griffin pulled up and fired on everybody? It looked like it was... I think it was Glasses. Oh, no, not Glasses. I wear glasses. God damn it. This is so sad. But... even though he's still kind of a bit of a mysterious figure, because we don't know everything about him, and obviously there will be more time for him to, like, grow and, like, see him change, but it's a very, terrible past that Ash has had, and, again, we don't know the full context, but when he was very young, he was forced into doing some very, terrible things for some disgusting excuses for human beings. God, didn't mean to get so heated. In that scene, in the interrogation scene, but, like, you have to understand, right? I can't be the only person who got heated, who got mad, who got fucking activated when that piece of shit excuse for a detective, excuse for a human being, started pulling up fucking videos. I'm not gonna say anything more because it's really disgusting, but videos of him when he was forced into doing that kind of bullshit when he was younger, in front of his face, to basically seemingly emotionally manipulate him. And I know now that he's on Papadino's. I don't want to call him Papadino. I don't respect him. Putting him on. He was on Dino's payroll, so I know that's why he was doing it. But the fact that he could, even though he's on Dino's payroll, the fact that he could do that, The fact that he could basically flaunt Ash's childhood trauma in his face like that. And not even like sweat, just like, ugh. Like, oh my god. You know, he was just like, oh. He didn't, like, setting aside that it's like destroying Ash emotionally and mentally. The fact that he was able to watch a video like that, completely straight face, like, oh, yeah, it's fine with me, I don't care. He's like, it's almost worse than if he was into it, you know? Because one of the worst things, like, that a person can be towards something is ambivalence. Because there's just nothing there. Like, it sounds weird to say, but, like, being super into it is disgusting and horrible. Being super against it, it feels like a really natural thing, so I would completely understand that. But he's not either of those things. He just doesn't care. It's just part of the business, which is, I think, way more fucked up than just being super into it, you know? Maybe that might just be me. But, like, obviously, one of these, like, it's been proven, and I think it might have just been a part of their plan to get Ash into prison and kill him. But it's very obvious that if they were able to, and, like, even in real life, like, that, people are gonna crack down on that shit, you know? If you keep doing it, you're gonna get cracked down on, and it is terrible that it happens to actual kids in real life, but being ambivalent to it, not liking it and, like, propagating it and eventually being taken down because of it is one thing, but the fact that he seems like whatever to it, not even seemingly disliking it at all, just means that he wouldn't crack down on people who do it. If he saw it happened, but they're in Dino's pocket, he would just, like, sit there like, oh, whatever. And again, he doesn't even seem like he's, like, against it morally, but it seems like something he would let slide, like, on the legality type situation. It's like, oh, who cares, you know? It's just, ugh. I'm glad Marvin's dead. Gross. I hope Evan Stein gets his comeuppance as well, but I'm really scared for what's going to happen next, because Ash is in a very vulnerable position right now. He will undoubtedly fight against his attackers, but I have a sneaking suspicion that, much like what happened with Marvin, he's going to get set up and put into, like, worse and worse situations if he does fight back against his attackers, because he has Evanstein on his side. He can pull the strings on things. That's how Ash gets moved into the state prison before he really should be, because as far as I know, they haven't had, like, a trial. That's what makes me think that this is much earlier in, like, the human timeline. It's like, but at the same time, we have, like, smartphones and GPS tracking on phones, but, like, they're not even like a formality type thing. They didn't even, like, have, like, the appearance of having a trial going on. They didn't even, like, pretend to have a trial and that he had a fair chance of not being guilty. They just, nope, he's going to state prison, even though realistically, as far as I know, based on law, that shouldn't happen. But I guess that just attests to how corrupt things are, which, yeah, no, but all of that, like, getting mad aside, this has been a really wild ride so far. I'm really interested to keep going, and I think I mentioned earlier that I didn't really know anything about this show. I really didn't. I think at some point, though, when it came out, some people were mentioning about how there was gay stuff in it. So far, it's been, like, none of the show. They're hinting at it, like, obviously, Ash's past, and the mentioning by somebody that there's a yaoi, official yaoi coupling, I think. Obviously, that's going to be a part of it at some point, but it feels like that's going to be, like, to label Bananafish as a gay show is to, like, miss out what this show was about entirely. I've only watched 2 shows, but I feel like that's a gross misinterpretation of this show. So I hope to God, and there will always be at least a few, but I hope to God that that's not how people see the show, and they just don't start this show because of that alone. Like, looking at the Mal list, it's listed as shoujo. I challenge anyone who hasn't watched the show but doesn't want to watch it because of the shoujo label and because they know there's going to be a gay couple. I challenge any of them to watch it, the first 2 episodes, even the first episode, and tell me like that this is a gay show. That's not. That's just a small fraction of it. That's weird, but man. Ugh. Oh, that scene of AG. They want to take him down, but it's such a sensitive topic. Like, even though he probably could get it out of AG, it just hurts too much to try and like bring it up near him. AG's such a sensitive boy. That's, I think. Oh, wow. That was crazy. This show is crazy. I'm so glad I'm watching it now. I kind of forgot to do this, so I'm gonna do this right now. But I was mentioning that bad shit like this happens in Japan, like what would happen to Ash. It happens in Japan too. It's not for the faint of heart, but there's a story of Junko Furuta. Some really bad things happened to her in Japan, and then there's also a thing that I very briefly mentioned that a lot of it gets covered up. From what I've read online, I could be wrong. It could have been changed at this point. I don't know. So take what I say with a grain of salt, because I'm no Japanese expert by any means. But from what I've heard, Japanese police stations prioritize efficiency over like correctness. It's quantity over quality. You know, the stations or the precincts or like the whatever. With the most like cases solved is seen as the sort of better station, but with the better officers, you know, they don't look into specific things. The reason why some of the suicide rate among, I believe, adults maybe is so high is because instead of, you know, deep diving and like going into depth as much as possible before making kind of ruling, if there is sufficient evidence to suggest that it was even possibly a suicide, they'll usually go with that to close the case faster. Again, not an expert. It's just something I read online. If you're really interested, do look into that more before spouting the same things I'm saying, because I could be wrong. I will fully admit I could be wrong. But it's just worth mentioning that it's not like excuse. Bad things happen in other countries too. And that's why I think a lot of the misconception that because of like Japan's strict gun laws, therefore the violent crimes are lower. And while that's certainly to an extent true, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily less. There are necessarily less like overall violent crimes. Like there are less shootings, obviously, and I'm sure there's at least a decrease in violent crimes, but they haven't like got rid of them. They still happen, but a lot of the times it's ruled as a suicide. You know. But man, that's pretty much all I had to say about this episode. If you enjoyed this video and watched all the way to this point, thank you so very much for watching. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed, and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload in the future. It also helps me out a lot. Thank you once again for watching. Peace.